When I first got to Congress, I wasn't sure I made the right decision. As I approached Vice President Harris for our official photo, she turned to me and asked, "What's wrong?" I immediately began crying. The most powerful woman in the world wiped my tears and listened.
Let's bring in Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas. Claire and Mara are also back with us. Congresswoman, good to see you. That moment from your speech where you talked about the authenticity and the humanity of Kamala Harris. You said she's the only candidate in this race capable of empathy. How do you help voters understand something that Doug Emhoff said in his speech, which is her empathy is her strength?
Yeah, I think that I am kind of the outward expression of that, right? Because she doesn't just use it to guide her when it comes to the legislative results that she's seeking. She also uses it to empower others. I truly was like a fish out of water when I first got to Congress, and I really had more questions than answers. And, you know, when people talk to me about that speech, they're like, we saw a side of you that we've never seen. Most people had not seen that side of me. And it was the side of me that actually had questions and was doubtful. But I can tell you without any question or any uncertainty that she has had that type of empathetic leadership that has empowered so many other leaders beyond just myself.
Congresswoman, veteran political reporter Jonathan Martin this week said of your GOP colleagues on the Hill, quote, "Let's be brutally honest. If you took a survey of the Republican conference on Capitol Hill and said, would you prefer Trump to play golf for the rest of the campaign and let his campaign drive the message or have Donald Trump do events, we all know which they'd prefer." Is he right?
Absolutely. Let him go play golf. Every time he opens his mouth, you know, the truth comes out, and the truth is not a pretty thing. The truth is tied to the agenda of Project 2025. The truth is tied to his history as it relates to discriminating against people of color when it came to housing, or when it came down to how he wanted the Central Park 5 hung. The truth only hurts him. So, yeah, they want him to shut up and allow them to kind of continue on so that they can continue to deceive people into believing that these two candidates both have something wonderful to offer this country, when we know that there's only one candidate that is qualified and only one candidate that is interested in moving our country forward instead of moving us back to the Jim Crow era of the 1950s and 60s.
Mara, we talked about money, we talked about volunteers, all part of the momentum and the enthusiasm. One of the other differences in infrastructure is the fact that Harris' campaign has so many surrogates like Congresswoman Crockett across this country that they can deploy to share the message even when the vice president can't be there herself.
Yeah, well, the Democrats have a deep bench. We actually, I think the country first realized it after that disastrous debate that President Joe Biden had a couple of months ago, where they started to see all these Democrats supporting him at the time, saying, well, wait a second. You know, there's a lot of talent in the Democratic Party. And so now we're seeing that deployed on the campaign trail. We even saw the generational, I would say, kind of array of talent. Everyone from Bill Clinton, kind of the elder statesman last week at the DNC, down to much younger folks like Congresswoman Crockett. And it's not just age. There is pretty much someone for everyone right now in the Democratic Party. You're a Midwesterner, you got Tim Walz. You're, from the South, you have someone like Ms. Crockett. It's actually remarkable. There's also talent at the state level. We saw it also again at the roll call last week, where, the Georgia state Democrats put up Lil Jon. I mean, there's a lot of talent right now in the party. And there is a sense, I think, among some of the Republicans of, hey, how come we can't do fun things? This looks fun. I think actually it was Nicolle Wallace who said a couple weeks ago, at its best, a convention is an invitation for voters to join the fun, join the party. And I think that's what the Democrats are doing versus just kind of an angry, bitter shouting match at the moment.
Senator McCaskill, it's an invitation. In the case of Kamala Harris, it's also a way to introduce her to voters who may not yet know enough about her. It is why someone like Congresswoman Crockett's story is so valuable, because you see in focus groups, in polling, people say, I like her, I want to know more, which is, of course, frustrating to some Democrats because she has been on the national stage and had a robust portfolio for the past 4 years. The getting to know her has to happen quickly, Senator, because, yes, Election Day is 70-something days away. Early voting starts in Pennsylvania in about 3 weeks. So there are voters who are going to be casting their votes very, very soon, Senator.
Yeah, no, this election is starting in about 10 minutes. And let me just say about Jasmine Crockett, you know, one of the New York Times columnists, and I quote, said she lit the drapes on fire in her speech. And, you know, the other thing I think people need to realize that Kamala Harris is not afraid of lifting up people like Jasmine Crockett. Donald Trump doesn't want anybody to upstage him. Donald Trump is very worried about how he wants people to look good and sit down. He doesn't want them ever to get between him and his adoring fans because it's all about him. It's not about lifting up others. It's not about mentoring people. You know, Kamala Harris stopped and asked about Jasmine Crockett because she cared. And she sees Jasmine Crockett and dozens of others like her in Congress as the future. And she wants them to succeed. And so I just think it's terrific that she is doing that and showing America that's who she is. And by the way, speaking of surrogates, what, you guys don't think Kid Rock is good enough? I can't figure that out. I mean,
he's no Lil Jon.
Huh?
Real quick, Congresswoman, before I let you go, do you think Donald Trump shows up September 10th?
No, but if he does show up, he is about to get his butt handed to him. So I'm here for it either way. He can go and cower in a corner, or he can show up and be lit on fire. Either way, I'm good.